This is JLeaird, and I'm going to be discussing the theory of planned behavior. The theory of planned behavior, or TPB, began as the theory of reasoned action. It was developed in 1980 to predict an individual's intention to engage in a behavior at a specific time and a specific place. It was developed by Isaac Asimov as an attempt to predict human behavior. The TPB suggests that attitude toward a behavior, subjective norm, and perceived behavioral control influence behavioral intention. The theory was intended to explain all behaviors over which people have the ability to exert self-control. The difference between theory of reasoned action and theory of planned behavior is the additional determinant of control. The key component to this model is behavioral intent. Behavioral intentions are influenced by the attitude about the likelihood that the behavior will have the expected outcome and the subjective evaluation of the risks and benefits of the outcome. The first construct of the theory is behavioral intention, which is the motivational factors that influence behavior. The stronger the intention to engage in a given behavior, the more likely it is to perform that behavior. The second construct is attitude towards the behavior, which is the extent to which a person has a favorable or unfavorable appraisal of a given behavior. Attitude consists of behavioral beliefs and outcome evaluations. Subjective norm is the third construct, which is a social pressure to perform or not perform a given behavior. Combination of normative beliefs and motivation to comply constitutes subjective norm. Perceived behavioral control refers to people's perception of the ease or difficulty in performing the behavior of interest. Case study 1. Matthew Assar used the theory of planned behavior to explain condom use among college students. While condom use behaviors are very low among college students, it is reported that consistent condom use behaviors are even lower. The purpose of the study was to determine the extent that the theory of planned behavior constructs account for the variability of condom use behaviors. The constructs of attitude towards behavior, perceived behavioral control, and subjective norms significantly predicted intention to use condoms. Indications are that the theory of planned behavior could be used to guide programs in promoting condom use among college students. Our second study's purpose was to investigate how well theory of planned behavior predicted frequency and consumption of fruits and vegetables among 7th graders, and to investigate whether gender and social economic status had moderating effects on the relationships between the constructs in the model. The design were 2 identical self-administered paper and pencil surveys that were distributed 6 months apart. The study occurred in 8 middle schools from school districts in the Minneapolis area. The subjects were invited, 7th graders. 74% completed the data for the model constructs at both baseline and at the interim data collection period. They measured frequency of consumption of fruits and vegetables and attitudes, subjective norms, barriers, and intentions related to this behavior. The results showed no significant direct effects of attitudes and subjective norms on behavior were found. But for barriers, both indirect effects through intentions and direct effects on behavior were significant. In conclusion, the data fit the model well. There appeared to be a strong relationships between subjective norms or barriers and intentions, as well as gender differences in the strengths of the relationships in the model that may have implications for intervention methods or messages. The theory of planned behavior has several limitations. They include the following. There is an assumption that the person has acquired the opportunities and resources to be successful in performing the desired behavior, regardless of the intention. The theory does not account for other variables that factor into behavioral intention and motivation, such as fear, threat, mood, or past experience. While it does consider normative influences, it still does not take into account environmental or economic factors that may influence a person's intention to perform a behavior. It assumes that behavior is a result of a linear decision-making process and does not consider that it can change over time. While the added construct of perceived behavioral control was an important addition to the theory, it doesn't say anything about actual control over behavior. The time frame between intent and behavioral action is not addressed by the theory. Over the past several years, researchers have used some constructs of the theory and added other components from behavioral theory to make it a more integrated model. Thank you.